Welcome back, everybody. Today's video, we're going to talk about the Weakspot Regeneration build. It's been a couple days since we put out a video. That's because we've been working hard trying to figure out more builds. So in the coming weeks, we're going to just be putting out build videos for Remnant 2. And we're going to start off with this one. This build works off of just absolutely smashing weak spots, but also being extremely comfy and regenerating a ton of health back, either through Lifesteal or through your equipment itself that allows you to passively regenerate while you do absolutely nothing. So why don't we start off by just going over the equipment involved in the build and then explaining it a little bit more. Naturally, we're going to be running the Hunter archetype and the Gunslinger archetype. The Hunter archetype, when leveled up to level 10, the damage perk is going to give us an extra 40% range damage, 15% weak spot damage, and 5% ranged critical chance increase. And then the Gunslinger at level 10 is giving us 15% fire rate, 25% range damage, and 5% crit chance for all firearms. So we are stacking those ranged damage bonuses from the Hunter and the Gunslinger to really power this build forward, along with our Amulet and the 4 rings. The armor isn't super important for this build. You can kind of slot in whatever you want. However, you have to keep in mind you want to keep your weight down. Why? Because we want to be rolling a lot. Not only do we get iframes when we roll, but we're also spending stamina when we roll. And when we spend stamina, we're going to be getting our health back. And this is something we're going to go into shortly once we get to the actual rings and amulets section. But right now, I'm trying to keep my armor around 50 weight or under because I like the way that it rolls with that. And I'm just slotting pieces in and out depending on what resistances I'm trying to match for that particular fight. For the relic itself, we're running the base Dragonheart relic, and we're going to be slotting in ranged fire rate, weak spot damage, and ranged damage. The first of the two primary weapons that we are focusing on in the build is the Nightfall gun. This gun you get from the Nightweaver boss. The really important part of this gun, not only does it hit really well with the weak spots, it has the Dreadwalker mod. And this Dreadwalker mod says, enter the Nightmare Realm. Nightfall gains infinite ammo, a 35% fire rate increase, 10% lifesteal, and becomes fully automatic. We're basically working on getting our mod power up so that we can activate Dreadwalker and absolutely destroy any weak spots that are in our way. For the mutator, we've slotted on Battery, which says, ranged hits increase the next weak spot hit by 20% per stack, max 5 stacks. Our melee weapon, we are focusing on the Labyrinth Staff because it increases mod power generation. And we want to get that Nightfall mod up and running as fast as possible. So with this weapon, basic strikes generate an extra 10% mod power, and charge attacks create AoE damage. And when that AoE damage happens, you generate 50% additional mod power. Just look how easily I'm able to regenerate the mod power with the Labyrinth Staff. Just doing a couple of AoE attacks. That one didn't hit the enemy, but this next one absolutely will. So in just 3-4 hits, we're back up to full mod power and ready to go again with the Nightfall weapon. This is a must-have melee weapon for this build. For our secondary primary weapon, our handgun, we are using the MP60R. This thing is found in the chest at Word 13. You can get it very early on in the game. It is just so powerful that I have tried other handguns and I've just come back to this one because I absolutely love it with the Overflow mod. So this imbues ammunition with shock damage, increases fire rate by 15% and reload speed by 15% for 20 seconds. Shots also apply overloaded, dealing 105 shock damage every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. For the mutator, I slotted in momentum. When this weapon scores a critical hit, it increases critical chance and critical damage by 1.5% for 3 seconds, max 10 stacks. So obviously with momentum, you want something that shoots extremely quickly, that is going to get a ton of critical hits in a very short amount of time, and this MP60 is going to do exactly that. So for our amulet slot, we've got the Full Moon Circlet. This thing says ranged damage lifesteals 3% base damage dealt. At full health, range damage is increased by 20%. Now, most of the time we are at full health, so we are just getting a flat 20% damage increase because of the way this build is built. You're constantly regaining health, so even if you do get damage, it's only a couple seconds before you're back up to 100%. Now, we also really love that extra 3% lifesteal because we already have 3% lifesteal from one of our traits. So we have 6% base lifesteal. Our first ring slot, we have the Vestige of Power. After 7 seconds of not being damaged, increases ranged and melee damage by 10%. The second ring that we've gone over in the unlimited health build video is a rerouting cable ring. Gain 5% of max health as a shield after spending 25 stamina. This is why we want to be rolling around. This is why we want to be running in our fights, so we can be spending stamina. We can stack this shield up to 50%. The third ring that we have is Farron's Sigil. Critical and weak spot hits generate 10% additional mod power. Now we are hitting the weak spot all the time pretty much. The final ring, you guys know, Generating Band. It regenerates 3% of max health per second while a shield is active. So this couples with the rerouting cable band, which allows you to get that shield when you're rolling and running. And then while you have the shield, you're regenerating health. So this is how you're constantly going back up to max health. This build can absolutely shred. Like if we're looking at this Shrewd fight, I'm just gonna pop the Nightfall mod and just absolutely go to town on this guy. And he hits me a few times, but we're making that health back real fast. Technically speaking, we melted this guy's health without even really hitting many of his weak spots, because his weak spot has a pretty small hitbox. We were actually mostly hitting around that hitbox and getting just regular old hits. So what happens when you are fighting in a boss fight and you're not able to get weak spots all the time? Well, the build is built around just doing a decent amount of damage regardless of weak spot and being able to survive, right? That's the second half of the build, is the survivability through the health regeneration. So I'm going to show you the Shrewd fight again, the one that I did in the higher level difficulty when I did it in Veteran. And for this one, I was trying to go for a no damage fight. And in order to do that, that means I can't just turn on the Nightfall mod and eat his attacks. I have to kind of avoid it. So as you can see, you know, in this second Shrewd fight, we're still focusing on trying to hit his head, but we're not spamming the Nightfall mod. However, we are rolling around. We're trying to avoid all these attacks, and I'm just trying to stay safe here so he does not hit me. That's it. There will be some boss fights where there is no clear weak spot. There will be some boss fights that don't allow you to really just pop on the Nightfall mod and go to town, because you either, one, get obliterated, or two, get interrupted somehow. So in those fights, you need to still be outputting pretty decent damage, but surviving. However, it is really nice when you get a very beautiful weak spot and you just pop that Nightfall mod. It goes something like this with the Corruptor. You're just sitting in one spot. He's doing some damage. You're absolutely eating it and just lifestealing it all the way back. The Root Nexus can be a little bit of an annoying fight. It's kind of tanky, and there's a lot of mobs that end up spawning. But if you do it right, you stand in one place, you turn on the Nightfall mod, and again, you just go to town. And just a couple hits later, you regenerate that mod, and you do it again. So for the trait points, you have a little bit of flexibility here, but the primary ones you want to max out are 1, Endurance, level 10, Spirit, level 10, Expertise, level 10, Siphoner, level 10, Recovery, level 10, and Handling, level 10. So let's explain that a little bit. Endurance is going to give you more stamina for rolling around and running, so that we can get our shields, so that we can heal. Spirit is going to give mod power generation, which obviously we want to get as much of as we can. Expertise is going to give the skill cooldown, so that way we can be popping our hunter and our gunslinger skills. Handling, so that we can reduce recoil and spread of the weapon, so that we can make it easier to hit the weak spots. Recovery, which increases the stamina regeneration per second, again, so we can be rolling around and running in a fight. And Siphoner, obviously, which is our lifesteal trait, that at level 10 gives us 3% lifesteal. I don't really care about health vigor, because we're getting health back so quickly and in so many different ways that I don't actually need to spend any points in vigor. Alright guys, so that's the video. It's focusing on the Nightfall and the MP60 to absolutely shred enemies by hitting their weak spots, doing an absolute metric ton of damage, while at the same time still being incredibly comfortable and regenerating health. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the video, please like it, subscribe to my channel. The support is appreciated, and I will catch you next time. See ya.